Westworld, Episode 9, The Well-Tempered Clavier. Hopefully that's how you say that, because I have no idea. But I know this episode was amazing. Like, once again, the ending, of course that theory was out there, that Bernard was Arnold, or at least based off of Arnold. And it was true. People were totally right. And it made a lot of sense. Once I heard the theory behind the picture thing, I was like, that actually makes a ton of sense. That Bernard wouldn't be able to see himself in the picture. And people said, like, oh, it's framed like there's a third person in that picture. So we have, we have Ford. We have this mystery dude, which now brings up that question. Who the F is that guy? Because if you have three people in this picture, they always say that there were two partners, but maybe that guy was just a friend or whatever. We don't really know. But who is that third guy? Because that's a big question as far as I'm concerned. He has to be important now because with this show, everything means something. So he's got to be somebody. I don't know if that's supposed to be, maybe they got a third actor for the Man in Black because we have, of course, William in the past. And then we have, someone in between. And then now we have, in the present timeline, we have the Man in Black because he's in his, complete old age. So maybe that's who that was. Maybe he just had white hair before he started going bald. Or this is someone we haven't even met yet because that guy did have full gray hair when they showed that picture. And even Ford didn't have completely gray hair at that point. Like that guy in the middle, his hair was completely white at that point. So we don't know who this dude is at all just yet. Unless we have seen him. It's the show. Who knows if we've seen him or not. But they officially put it out there. Bernard is based off of Arnold. And they threw everything out. It was like, hey, here's every effing answer at this point. So at this point, there is no theory or anything like that as to who the Man in Black is. The only question at this point is whether or not it's truly William, or it could be Logan. Who knows? Maybe he snapped, but I'm assuming it's going to end up being William. But they do it. I think this episode officially did. I mean, once I heard that theory, I was like, alright, it made sense based on the evidence. And there's just more and more evidence each time. The last episode had the Man in Black talking to the host. And he's like, oh, it's you. Like, I thought they would have retired you, her being the first host he ever met. And then this episode, they have Logan pull out that picture of this woman. He's like, remember her? And he takes the picture out to show William. And it's the picture from the very first episode that was somehow buried, in the sand that Dolores' dad found that caused him to go nuts. Which, by the way, I don't know how much they're going to pick up his storyline after the Sizemore thing where he's told to put a new narrative into him to get him out as a human. I don't know how horrible that's going to end up, but I'm excited to see what plays out in the finale. But once they showed that, I was like, alright, I guess that theory's done now. It's official. That's, obviously that's in the past now. Like, that's 100%. Everyone has to be able to recognize that that is in the past because that picture is in Logan's hands. But in the first episode, it was not. So we got to see that happen. It's officially in the past now. And somehow they end up on the Abernathy farm. So that's where they're headed. And I'm curious to see how that's supposed to play out. But there's still a couple of different mysteries in there. We still have William kind of snapping after he saw Logan, stab Dolores and he, opened her up. That was it. That dude, he effing lost it, and it was pretty beautiful. It was like, alright, that was the turning point for him. His coin, it just flipped right over. So Dolores takes off after cutting Logan. He's like, you're not different, you're just broken. So she takes off, and William plays his cards. He doesn't play all of them, but he plays some, and he's like, alright, I recognize now that I was going crazy. She's fake. I got all wrapped up. And I never thought I'd say this, but when Logan was talking to him after he had him tied up, I was like, holy crap, maybe he really does care about William, at least a little bit, because he was being his normal self until he was like, hey, do you, because even when the way he did it was over the top, but after he talked with William, he's like, I understand I was crazy and I got wrapped up. Logan was super calm, and I was like, I actually don't want him to die a little bit because he's not being a complete a-hole right now. And he was being genuine, it seemed, at least to me. I mean, it could have just been him acting, but, excuse me, he seemed genuine. And I'm like, he's untying him and stuff, and he's like, hey, we all get wrapped up in this. You just got wrapped up a little bit more and stuff. And even the stuff he says, he's like, we're going to be brothers, and I'm glad. I'm really glad. And I was like, it's hard to. Is he? It was a 180. It was like his coin flipped. I don't know. I guess he realized like, all right, I thought I was bad, but I made him effing snap. So I think I need to pull my own reins in a little bit and be a decent human being for once. So it was crazy watching that scene, and it's like I think it was just too late. Like that's he thought he pushed him too far, getting him involved, and sadly he pushed him too far, trying to pull him back out. That's the unfortunate part of it. So it seemed like that was the moment where he's like, hey, we both have our differences, but we were in this, we're in the middle now. We balance it all out. So he goes to sleep. He's like, he feels everything's great. And when he wakes up and it's just chaos, I mean, clearly he was so drunk, he didn't hear any of the chaos because William destroyed the entire camp. I mean, he didn't even just kill them. He was like cutting parts off and stuff like that. And I believe, it was really hard to tell. I thought they showed it already, but Logan had the knife that he used to stab Dolores. I think that's the knife that the Man in Black uses now. So, I don't know, maybe it's homage, because I still feel like I'm pretty sure William is the one who becomes the Man in Black. I still think if that does follow in line and he is the Man in Black, Logan has to be the guy that dies, right? Like, I'm still thinking, like, this is, 30 years in the past, that fatal error, which they haven't mentioned since, like, the second or third episode. I don't know if we're going to actually see it in this, or if they have more story to tell with the past timeline, but I feel like this is going to be it. Like, the finale is coming up. Also, when I'm jumping ahead, but also they've killed off, like, 3 effing people, possibly 4, because Stubbs was tackled. I didn't even think of this until just now, honestly. Whole episode, I forgot about him until just now. He was tackled by Native Americans. Gone. Whole episode, he has not shown up again, so I don't even know where his storyline is headed for the finale. But we have, of course, Teresa's gone. Elsie is dead now because officially she was killed. Arnold is now gone, or Bernard, I guess he's officially gone now. And so we have 3 characters killed off. Who knows where that forward is going with this, but he did have someone else being built. And I mentioned that before. I didn't know if he was playing it where it was going to be Teresa, like a new version of her. If it would be finished in time, he would try to replace her, but we found out that didn't happen. So someone was being made in that machine on underneath the little secret house, and he's got some plan for that. I don't know if his plan is to rebuild Bernard, because they don't really specify how much time has passed between episodes, so it's always hard to say. I would assume it's been at least a week, because they always do the stuff with Maeve, like her dying and coming back. I'm like, this has to, take place like within 24 hours. Like, she wakes up during the day at the park, she gets herself killed off. She even went through the whole day in this episode and dying with Escatine and stuff. So they don't really specify how many days have passed and all that type of stuff. So that other host, whoever he's making in there, could be finished by the finale, and it's like, oh, here's the new version of Bernard, and nothing, none of it ever happened. Although I don't think he'll do that, because he left him to shoot himself in the head, and he didn't bother, saying like, Clementine clean up the body, which we also see in the promo. Maeve is gathering all the troops, and she finds Clementine at the bottom, in like the little graveyard section. So I'm sure she'll see Bernard, and that might set off even more crazy stuff. So things are getting to a real bubbling point. Bernard even talks about in this episode getting all the sentient ones that Arnold helped create and kind of truly bring to life. So that's kind of what Maeve, unfortunately Bernard won't be able to carry that out, but Maeve seems to be the one able to bring that mission along. And in the promo, it is Maeve, Hector, the woman with like the snake tattoo. It's like a super quick scene, but she's like biting a dude's thumb off or whatever. Like, she wakes up and like tries to bite his finger off, so she's there as well. I'm assuming with Maeve having like these narrative privileges or whatever, she'll be able to fix Clementine, even though they like lobotomized her, or pseudo lobotomized her, I guess. So maybe she'll be able to save her, maybe she won't. But she's gathering the troops to get out of there, and they have that clip of her in the dress where she tries to walk out. So I am curious how that's going to play out, and if she's going to, when it comes down to it, is she going to try to save herself, or is she really going to help everybody and be like, alright, we can't all just walk out at once. Looks like we're going to need some chaos. So it's kind of one of the two. Like, either she's gonna abandon them at the last second, like, well, I'm out because I can survive, or she's gonna have to cause chaos for, multiple, hosts to actually, survive to that point. So that's another thing I'm super curious about. How effective is this stuff going to be? Um, she has a great moment early on in the episode with Bernard where she reveals to him again that he's a host, because she can kind of just see it. She knows who's a host and who's not. So I thought that was cool, because I thought Bernard was just going to remember based on the promo. I thought he was just going to start having his moments, just like the other hosts. But she's the one who really sets him on the path to be like, hey, we're actually the same. Like, you're actually a host just like me. So that's what leads to that whole thing with him and Ford. And, of course, the epic official confirmation that he is Arnold. But it was awesome. I thought it was really cool. It was a phenomenal episode with the official reveals. The stuff, I mean, there was so much extra stuff that was in this episode I didn't expect. I think the biggest thing had to be Teddy, though. Like, him remembering in the last episode, that was one thing. But finding out that these flashbacks and stuff were real, like, Ford gave him this backstory, and I mentioned this before when they were showing the stuff with him and Wyatt. I was like, it's weird we're seeing flashbacks of things that technically never even happened, because it's all made up stories. Like, Wyatt's a brand new character. We find out there is no Wyatt, but Ford is the one that made this mission, and yet it's altered. Or maybe he didn't, and I thought back on this during the scene when they're in the bar, when Teddy mentions, like, oh, there's a war general or whatever who stole Dolores. Arnold, or now I'll just keep saying Arnold, Ford said that last part didn't sound familiar. I always assumed, because during that scene it made sense, that he would have the story of Wyatt. It's like, okay, yeah, this is a part of his new narrative, it's Wyatt and all this other stuff. And I guess it's still technically true that he at least started that, but somewhere in there is some different stuff, because that host, she remembers everything. She's like, you don't remember exactly what happened. Like, either Wyatt existed and maybe it was a different person, maybe that was that third guy, or there was never any Wyatt and it was just Teddy, just like Dolores when she kind of went nuts, as well as Maeve. That was Teddy's thing, and it's like, okay, he effing lost it, time to switch some things around for him and give him a different thing. And maybe that's why they reset him all the time, because he used to be sheriff and something broke and he went nuts and just killed everybody. So it's like, alright, let's just start him as a new guy every single day. He's just now coming into town, because we can't have any sort of semblance to these actual people except for Dolores, which I'm curious if that'll actually mean something, where it's like maybe Ford chose not to separate them, because they're so old, they were all in that original town. So it's really interesting where they're going with the Teddy thing, because I was like, holy crap, that explains. Now in the last episode, when they fought one of Wyatt's men, or Wyatt, why he was taking so many hits. I thought it was just, this is a part of the new narrative. These creatures take a bunch of hits because they're like on the outer fringes of the park. Everyone talks about how it's so much crazier. They take more hits. They, even being shot in logical places, they don't drop. It was like, that makes sense. They're all like little mini boss fights or something, like really tough. Now it makes even more sense, because that wasn't the case. It wasn't built into them. It was them becoming sentient. It was them realizing, these bullets don't mean anything to me. Like, I'm programmed to die, but now that I know what's going on, I'm not going to die. And it was a lot like Dolores in this episode. That's why she didn't die when she got cut. She should have been dead. Like, she's supposed to be like, oh, I got stabbed and gutted. Like, he cut her open. You would die from that in real life. And she was just crying and stuff. And then she kind of looked and saw what was happening. And is like, no, she's broken. Like, she should have dropped dead and been, like bleeding out, and that's game over. She, she was completely broken, so that was, during that time, and that's why she took off. She should have dropped, but that was all out the window because she was too sentient, I guess. So the stuff with, Wyatt's men, or Teddy's men, I guess at this point, it was so cool. It's like that explains it. It's not a part of the narrative that they're tougher to kill. They realize it. It's like, yeah, I'm a robot. I can get shot and nothing happens to me because I don't have actual organs. I'm fine. It's weird because now I realize I'm not a human, but I can also survive being killed. But that's why it died when it got hit in the head, because that's where all the main functions are for the rest of the system to move. It's still basically, the brain. So, once again, everything means something. So that's why that scene was like that. That's why they had to hit it in the head with the axe to actually kill it. So that was cool. Ford actually ends up talking. I still don't remember this woman's name. Like, she's basically a main character now. Still can't remember the woman's name who just came in after, in the episode where Teresa was gone. So, or the episode before she died. But it's like, I just can't remember her name. But, she actually goes into the park and talks with Ford. And I love that scene. I was hoping that she'd say his name, but of course they held it off, probably for the finale. But she goes in and he's like, hey, if you want to push Ford out, whatever, you have my blessing. The narrative I'm interested in, it's not even his. Do whatever you want. And he says like, good luck, and he walks off and he spins his gun and he puts it in his pocket, and she's like, all right, and that's it. So I thought that was actually a cool scene. It was like, I just didn't expect it. And she came in right after he died, or almost died too. So once again, everything means something. So I'm also a little curious about that one, but it's hard to say because that was more focused on pushing Ford out. So I don't know how that would come into play as a part of his narrative, but he's like an evil genius at this point, so maybe he just wanted to see what the guy would say and be like, what's he looking for? Like, he knew he was looking for the maze, so why bother trying to stop him or seeing what he cares about? He knows what he's going towards, so I don't know. It's just hard to say. I was curious, like I said, when she first came in, I was like, no, is she human? All these revelations now, what the F? So, hard to say. Don't really know, but thought that was a cool little moment. Whole episode was amazing. Can't wait for this finale. Based on the promo, William still seems to be going nuts in the past. Logan doesn't seem too happy. It also seemed like Lawrence was back. It seemed like he had come back, and they're gonna go find Dolores. So there's a lot to look forward to in the past section. We might get to see exactly how the photo ends up in the dirt, which I think Logan still has it. I don't think he gave it to William. So he, once again, my bet is still that he's the one who gets killed, because I am pretty sure that, the man in black is William. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see how all that stuff plays out. But I am very excited for this finale. Of course, I definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. 100 million questions. What do you guys want to see for the finale? What do you think we're going to see for the finale? Of course, whether you knew the theory or not, because like I said, I knew the theory, but I was just waiting. I'm like, I'm pretty sure those people have their guesses, and I'm pretty sure these theories are correct. But I was still excited to get the confirmation, and once I saw the picture that he was truly Arnold, I was still excited by that. I was like, even though I've known this theory for a while, that confirmation is insanely satisfying. Just like if William is the man in black and they officially just say it, that confirmation is still going to be incredibly satisfying after everything I've seen. Even knowing it, it's like, somehow that's how good this show is to me. It's like, I can know a theory where people are right. And I guess because it's still theories, it's not spoiled. It's just a theory that it could be or it could be wrong, even though it seems really legit, all these people having all these theories that come together and all the clues and stuff that are in there. It's like, that makes sense, this makes sense, that's probably correct. So even with all that stuff, it's just like, man, I loved what they did with the reveal. Sad to see Bernard go. I kind of hated, that was the only thing I didn't like. I was like, oh crap, they're killing him? Like, they just killed 2 people and now they're killing Bernard. I was like, holy crap, who's even going to be left? Because I mentioned this in my last review, I don't really see how Maeve can get out without some bloodshed. Maybe she will make it, and like I said earlier, there has to be some turning point where she has all these hosts with her, and it's like, alright, this is the goal, this is what happens. So it can't be perfect. So there's so many questions as to how her thing is going to play out, and them doing this stuff with Dolores jumping through time, that was another kind of full-on confirmation, which I think they made fairly obvious in some other episodes, but this was kind of official. And the big reveal with her is that she was the one that killed Arnold. And once again, some answers are just answers, some answers are freaking questions. So why did Arnold have Dolores kill her or kill him? Or was Ford the one that did it? Because he had the prototype for Bernard, but the first one we saw, of course, was Dolores. So, that's up in the air right now. But phenomenal episode. Like I said, would love to know what you thought about the reveals for this episode. What you guys are expecting to see in the finale. What you want to see, because with this show, I feel like we're going to want to see everything, and we're only going to get like maybe two things. We might not even see Stubbs at all in the next episode. I doubt they'll do that, but it's totally possible. You know, like, why were these um, Native American hosts so sentient? This is like the first glimpse we've ever had of hosts outside of, admittedly, just like white people being sentient. You know, anyone who is outside of like the fringes of this typical society, or as like, you know, cowboys and cowgirls and prostitutes, everyone's just been a normal host, and now we suddenly come across these Native American hosts, and they're sentient. So there's something to that. You know, there's definitely something there. So I'm curious as to what that means. But there's just there's just so much to this show. I can't wait to see the finale. My girlfriend's super mad. I told her this in the last episode. Because she typically sees them behind, because just how we end up watching the shows. She was so mad when I told her the second season, and sorry to make you mad if you didn't know this, season 2 doesn't come out till like 2018. It's not even coming on next year. And when I told her that, she was like, I don't even want to watch it now. I gotta wait, you know, over, you know, a full year. And I was like, I understand that, but I've already got that. I'm waiting for those of you who might watch Into the Badlands on AMC. I remember, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, they showed like the little 2-second promo for that. I was like, I can't freaking wait, because I love that show. So I'm fine with it. I love this. I'll wait for it. It sucks that it's going to take that long, but it's still going to be phenomenal. But like I said, want to know what you guys thought about this episode, and what you guys are waiting to see, hoping to see, think we're going to see anything for this next one. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.